and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Well, it's being shared all over social media, and there's no way anyone can hide it no more. There's no need to deny it. There's no need to ignore it. We have to really start addressing the overall problems that we are seeing on social media. And that is, there is a massive wave of censorship. We have been talking about this since 2020. I want to give a special shout out to my colleague, Daniel Lupker, especially in 2020, because I saw him work very hard because we were this close to be building our teams for doing field reporting. Honestly, if we were never gut checked like we were in 2020, Hard Lens Media would look different. But see, that's YouTube we're talking about. We know about the YouTube censorship. And for a long time, people have been talking about the censorship that's on Twitter and on Facebook. And now, whether you like him or not, Elon Musk has, well, lifted the dirty, nasty stones, the rocks that have been covering up Twitter. And in it, we are seeing madness, stupidity, filth, disgusting, evil behavior by the people who were running Twitter before Elon. Now, again, social media and a lot of these social media sites should be an open platform. They should be public utilities, a free exchange of ideas. Now, before anyone, especially in the SJW crew, and be a Democrat or Republican, because yes, there are SJW Republicans, let's be very clear here on this. In life, you're going to run into people that you will not agree with. But I believe in free speech 100%. I believe that there should be an open exchange of ideas. Now, are there bad people out there? Yes. Let's be very clear. There are bad people out here. But when you create an environment to where you are segregating people, putting people in their own bubbles, or kicking people out, you're causing a bigger problem. I want to pull up this article here from the Post Millennial, where it turns out, and as have other people have shared it, because there's a long Twitter thread. Today's going to be a long show. So, we got a lot to talk about. Almost every conspiracy theory that people had about Twitter turned out to be true. When asked, is there any part of the files that really shocked you? Musk replied, the FBI stuff is pretty intense. I also want to give a special shout out to this person as well, Eliza Blue, who for a very long time, if you haven't been following her on social media, and again, I got to be very careful how I word this, but she, and again, here, I got to be very careful how I have to word this because there's censorship on YouTube too, but yet corporate media can continue to tell their lies. But hey, someday we'll live in a better world, maybe. But she was calling out the previous ownership of Twitter, Jack and his fantastic friends, about, well, some reprehensible behavior, and that's even then, that's being too kind. Very ugly content that was being shared on their social media platform that, again, when she was raising the alarms to, Twitter management ignored it. The FBI ignored it. But what's going on? Continue on here. I want to play this video here just to share it with all of you.
I mean, to be totally frank, almost every conspiracy theory that people had about Twitter turned out to be true. So, is there a conspiracy theory about Twitter that didn't turn out to be true? So far, they've all turned out to be true. And if not, more true than people thought.
I want to play this video here as well. I think it's important that everyone at least see what's exactly happening here, so we can get a better picture about why now more than ever, all these big social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Well, we need to start investigating them in regards to how they've been silencing and suppressing speech.
Hey, the Twitter files. How much longer are these going to go on? It seems like every week another drop, and these are pretty controversial. How much longer are the Twitter files going to go on? in your mind. Yeah. And maybe why is this important to you to make sure that people understand the stuff? Yeah.
I think it's important to, like, if we're going to be trusted in the future, to kind of clear the decks for stuff that's happened in the past. So, I mean, to be totally frank, almost every conspiracy theory that people had about Twitter turned out to be.
I also want to acknowledge this here in the live stream chat. Shout out to JB. You're saying, so glad I caught this live. Seems like I see Harlan's media less on my feed last several months for some odd reason. You're not the only one. I still get messages and emails from people saying, hey, I've been unsubscribed from Hard Lens. Hey, how come I'm being unsubscribed from a lot of these independent media networks? And that's a fact. So I always tell people, please double check and triple check that not only are you still subscribed to us here on YouTube, but make sure you're still subscribed to your other favorite content creators too, because on YouTube, for some reason, people are being unsubscribed. And that's very, very suspicious.
To be true. So, like, is there a conspiracy theory about Twitter that didn't turn out to be true? So far, they've all turned out to be true. And if not, more true than people thought.
Is there a part of the files that really shocked you more than the rest of them? Like, of the things that have been disclosed, of all of these things, is there something that really sticks out with you as like, holy shit, I had no idea this was happening? Or is the whole thing just a big dumpster fire? They were just looking at one huge thing. Like PSYOPs versus the Hunter Biden thing versus the
number of FBI people involved. That was
the
pretty
FBI
shocking.
stuff is pretty intense.
Yeah, the FBI PSYOP stuff to me was probably the one that was the most insidious. Like the rest of it, I could think of like, a bunch of overzealous libs got used.
Yeah,
got it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But to have like a secure skiff that essentially sends things that, government agents want the populace to basically think, seems like out of a really bad dystopian novel. And then it turns out it existed. And then the thing is, it couldn't have just existed at Twitter. So what are we going to do about all the other places where this shit's happening?
Now, let's be very clear here. I want to pause it right there. It's happening in the other places too. Now, take, for example, got to bring this up again, Hunter Biden's laptop, right? When that story was first produced in 2020, as we later found out, thanks to the Joe Rogan podcast, it was revealed in an interview that he did with Mark Zuckerberg that the FBI went to Facebook, but as we later found out too, the FBI also went to Twitter to do everything they could to suppress that story. And that's just only one incident, but it turns out there are more incidences. So obviously, right off the bat, I'm going to have to assume through process of elimination, through what we have seen so far through the Twitter files, that there is some really underhanded activities happening at Facebook and Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. But then let's also look at the long sad history that's happening here on YouTube as well. Long time ago, YouTube used to be a meritocracy. I know, controversial statement. I know, but it used to be. It used to be, kind of, sort of. Now you got to be careful what you say on this platform. That's why we set up other shows on Rockfin, Odyssey, Rumble, etc. This is the danger that we have been talking about, that other independent media networks have been talking about, the ongoing silence and suppression that we are seeing on social media, where journalism, free-thinking media is being silenced. Now, we all know firsthand corporate media has an algorithm favoring it. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, specifically YouTube, will do everything it can to direct you to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, CBS, etc. Because they want to control the narrative. Because, again, these larger corporate media outlets did not like the fact that there were independent voices, free-thinking media, challenging the establishment, challenging the neoliberal narrative. Now, why am I talking about this? Because this has also recently been shared with everybody as well. This came out today. Thread. Now, again, we have to talk about the pandemic. Twitter files how Twitter rigged the COVID debate. The pandemic. Yes, we all remember that. By censoring info that was true but inconvenient to U.S. government policy, by discrediting doctors and other experts who disagreed, by suppressing ordinary users, including some sharing the CDC's own data. Just a little side note for everyone. In 2020, was when Hard Lens Media got its gut checked by YouTube because we did a video on COVID. That was one of our first of the 7 strikes that we got. The second strike that was COVID related was when we were talking about how Joe Rogan was being smeared by CNN. Now, throughout that story, never once did we bring up COVID or the pandemic or ivermectin, etc. We didn't talk about it. But YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, thought that we were. We're still recovering from that devastating hit in 2020. Almost going to be now 3 years later. That's how bad the censorship is. And there are other channels that have been hit even harder, that are permanently banned off of YouTube. Continuing on. So far, Twitter files have focused on evidence of Twitter's secret blacklists, because they do exist, and probably also exist on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. How the company functioned as kind of a subsidiary to the FBI, and how executives rewrote the platform's rules to accommodate their own political desires. Fair and Balanced and I talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, when we looked at the previous people who were the thought police, on Twitter. And I just got to say this, I understand why people are triggered by Trump, because he says things that are downright deplorable. Okay, that's true. Okay. But the thing is, by silencing and suppressing people who either are for Trump or voted for Trump, they're not going to go away. And see, the thing is, the previous management of Twitter, honestly, probably in their most private, darkest, deepest moments, they probably wish they could be like Trump. Because given that ounce of power, they were so quick to abuse it, to silence anyone that was critical of them, to silence anyone that was saying, hey, something's wrong with Twitter. Hey, this isn't right. Hey, there's an issue here on this platform. And again, the Twitter management, Jack. By the way, Jack, hey, did you really have a hands-off approach to Twitter, or were you seriously bending over backwards at the beck and call of the FBI? Come on to my show, Jack. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Maybe hear how you really ran that organization, because for all intents and purposes, it seems like you're rather, you didn't know, you were incompetent, or you knew and you just didn't give a damn. Continue on. What we have yet to cover is COVID. This reporting for the Free Press is one piece of that important story. United States government pressured Twitter and other social media platforms, YouTube, to elevate certain content and suppress other content about COVID-19. Many of you are probably wondering, hey, I was unsubscribed from Hard Lens Media. Oh my goodness, you guys are still around. Or hey, how come not being notified anymore? In 2020, a lot of independent media platforms really got the screws put to it. This is all happening under a Democratic administration too, huh? I could have sworn in 2020 there was all these vote blue no matter who people saying, oh, with Biden and Harris in office, we're going to protect the press and free speech. It got a lot worse. Controversial statement in 3, 2, 1. Yes, YouTube was a place you had to tiptoe around eggshells too. Yes, there was censorship. Yes, there was. But it wasn't that bad during those 4 years. I mean, yes, it was tough. Let's be clear here. But boy, oh boy, it seems like somebody really lit up the fire in 2020. And it keeps on boiling and boiling and boiling until there's no more water. And all you got is a hot pot. Just saying. Internal files at Twitter that I viewed while on assignment showed that both Trump and the Biden-Harris administrations directly pressed Twitter executives to moderate the platform's pandemic content according to their wishes. Huh. So see, hey, vote blue no matter who, and Trump supporters. Look, see, they can agree. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I look, and I had a great conversation with someone about why people vote Democrat and Republican, because you got a lot of people who sacrifice time, money, spending time with their family and friends, and I get the team mentality. Maybe you feel a sense of pride, but both parties don't like you. Both parties don't think about you, and both parties don't respect you. Let this be a lesson right here, highlighting both Trump and the Biden administrations directly press Twitter executives to moderate the platform's pandemic content according to their wishes. So seriously, if you vote Democrat or Republican, no, seriously, I really want you to explain why you still vote Democrat or Republican when both parties, and no matter who's in the White House as well or who controls Congress, both parties will do everything they can to keep you in the dark because both parties apparently think that you're too dumb to figure things out. Corporate media, hey, controversial statement. Corporate media did a fantastic job brainwashing the American people to act like herd animals. It's really impressive. And I realize that we have a monumental task to wake people up because you got so many suckers voting Democrat, voting Republican, thinking that they're making a change when all what they are is an abusive, they're part of a domestic abusive relationship. If you vote Democrat or Republican, I'm looking at you like an abusive spouse where you're covering up your black eye that you got because you got, that little shiner. So you're wearing the sunglasses or putting on concealer. Be brave. Take it off. Show me that shiner. Tell me why you vote Democrat or Republican, sucker. There you go. Maybe I'm being too mean. Maybe I'm being mean. Maybe I'm being mean. Elon says, living in America is like being in a car that's on fire and you're going down the freeway at 130 miles per hour. Thank you, Elon. That's perfect. Marvin Vargas writes, two parties are just two mafias. Simple as that. That's the truth. That is the truth. And again, this whole Twitter thread goes on. It's more than that. There's so much to unpack with this. There's so much to really address about how bad this entire system truly is. We don't have a seat at the table, folks. It's also important to note that high-level employees at Twitter who chose the inputs for their bots and decision trees and subjectively decided to escalate cases and suspensions. They were quick to silence anyone that was against the narrative. Look at how many people were silenced off of Twitter. We can all look back in 2020. Let's look back. Let's go back in time and look at how so many of our favorite content creators have been silenced and suppressed. So many free-thinking individuals were silenced and suppressed. If you're not scared, you should be. I want to pull up this tweet right here. Again, I can't read it out loud. But I'm just going to share it for all of you to see. I'm going to remove myself too. I apologize for not reading it, but I know that YouTube will do everything it can to hit us with that. I want to end this segment with a speech that Eliza Blue gave on how the Twitter files, how Twitter rigged the COVID debate. Folks, the censorship's going to keep on getting worse if we remain silent. If we don't speak out now, we're all doomed.
I want you to get in the mind frame of fighting for your freedom as if you're fighting for someone that's being trafficked. We have to start fighting for our personal freedom here in the United States, just as if we were fighting for another person that needs to be free. If you saw someone that was being trafficked, you would start fighting for them. Well, I'm telling you right now, the government's acting like an abuser, and we need to start fighting for our own freedom before it gets worse. I'm so desperately passionate about my freedom. You know, when I was preparing to be here today, I was like, how the heck can I be tasked with explaining how it feels to go from being a free person to being a not free person to being free again? I could tell you right now, Getting back your freedom is the hardest thing you ever do. You do not want to lose it. I can tell you this. I can tell you this. You do not. I'm telling you. It is the most sacred thing you will ever have. You do not want to lose your freedom. I'm telling you, getting it back, you're like fighting for oxygen, you're fighting for air, and you will never be the same.
Yeah, it's the truth. If we remain silent, if we don't speak out now, nothing will fundamentally change. And I don't care how you vote, whether Democrat or Republican, Libertarian, Green, Socialist, Independent. I don't care the color of your skin, who you worship, or what generation you're part of. What's it going to take to wake people up to get in the game? It's one big club and you ain't in it. See, the politicians and those in power dance and drink because they believe you, and I'm talking to you, they think you are weak. They think you can't fight. They think you are too stupid to think for yourself. And let's be very clear, corporate media and two-party system did a fantastic job brainwashing a lot of Americans. Most Americans don't even know that they're being screwed over. Some Americans who vote Democrat, Republican think that they're saving the country from the other side because, oh, my team represents freedom. My team tells the truth. No. Twitter files is showing that both the Trump administration, that's right, freedom-loving Trump. Oh, and that the Biden administration, freedom-loving Biden, wants to return soul back to America. Where both administrations were telling all social media platforms to control what can and cannot be seen, to silence and suppress. Let's have democracy in the chat as a final statement. Type 1 if you have absolute high confidence in the media and your politicians in Washington, D.C., and the president of the United States, no matter they be a Democrat or Republican, you have absolute high confidence in them to tell you the truth and that you believe in them. Type 2 if you don't. Type 1 if you believe in the system. Type 2 if you don't.